to follow the two-step process. Number 1, stop getting into more debt. Number 2, choose a method to get out of debt and stick to it. That's it. That's all you have to do. If you can stop incurring more debt and then follow a method to get out of debt, you've done it. You might not be there yet, but you are going to be debt-free if you follow this simple two-step path. It's not going to be easy, but it is possible. Welcome to the Teacher Money Show, the podcast dedicated to helping teachers navigate your unique financial challenges and unlock your financial superpowers. I'm your host, Shaun Morgan, a full-time teacher. That's right, I teach every day just like you, and personal financial coach. And I'm here to help every teacher, whether you're a seasoned teacher looking for fresh insights or a new educator navigating your first paycheck, to have a richer wallet, classroom, and life. The contents of this podcast are informational in nature and are not legal or tax advice, and neither I nor my guests are engaged in the provision of legal, tax, or any other advice. You should not act upon this information without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional. Today we get to continue our discussion of debt. We talked about what debt is last time and how we get into debt, and now we're going to discuss how you go about getting out of debt, which I know is what most of you are here for. So I want to remind you what we talked about last time is to understanding your debt, you need to do a debt inventory, which you can access a made-for-you debt inventory worksheet at teachermoneyshow.com/debt inventory. Debt inventory is DEBTINVENTORY. And then you look over your last month of spending and see what you overspent on. That helps you get an idea of where your spending is. You discuss your debts with a spending partner. So whether that's like a spouse or someone that you live with, or maybe even just discussing your debts with someone that you trust. That way you have someone to bounce ideas off of and get accountability with that person. That's huge. Accountability is huge. And then from there, we were just waiting to know what we needed to do to start getting out of debt, to get that motivation to get out of debt. We've got that. Now what do we do? What are the actual action steps? Debt freedom is a common goal for everybody. So assuming that you're listening to this, you are probably in debt of some kind and would like to be out. Even if you just have a mortgage, that is debt. That is something that is dragging you down. Because can you imagine what it would be like to have no mortgage, to pay just for, insurance and taxes? It would drastically reduce your expenses every single month. It'd be a huge, huge weight off your shoulders, because I guarantee you that you could make enough money to cover your taxes and insurance by just, picking up some shifts at a fast food restaurant if you absolutely needed to. So it gives you that peace of mind knowing that you can really handle any challenges life throws at you by being debt free. So whether it's a mortgage or cars or education or credit cards or any other kind of consumer debt, people are kind of worried that they're going to have debt for the rest of their life, but it doesn't have to be that way. And the way that you can get out of debt is surprisingly simple. Might not be easy, but it's simple. To get out of debt, what you need to do is to follow the two-step process. Number 1, stop getting into more debt. Number 2, choose a method to get out of debt and stick to it. That's it. That's all you have to do. If you can stop incurring more debt and then follow a method to get out of debt, you've done it. You might not be there yet, but you are going to be debt-free if you follow this simple two-step path. It's not going to be easy, but it is possible. So stop getting into more debt. Well, what does that mean? It seems really obvious. Like, well, duh, I need to stop getting into more debt. I'm in debt. And it's kind of odd that staying out of debt comes before paying off debt. You might think, I just need to start paying this down. But if you keep getting into more debt, you're going to be on what's called a debt treadmill, where you just consistently getting more debt while you pay off debt, and get more debt while you pay off debt, and you're not going to change your habits. The problem is that most people, when they pay off debt, don't change the habits that got them there so they can get right back into debt. It's just like losing weight. You might follow something like a plan to lose weight, but you haven't changed yourself, your mindset, your habits. So that way, when you are done with this plan, this diet, uh, you don't fall right back into the same trap that got you where you had started from. It's the same thing with debt. It's a natural human tendency. We go on this plan to really cut back on things, and then we just go back right back to where we were. So we need to get off of that treadmill. And if you can stay off the debt treadmill, you will naturally no longer be in debt eventually. You won't be able to help it. You will stop going into more debt, and as you're not going into more debt, you will get out of debt over time. This is obvious, but it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? Things you need to do to get off the treadmill are to get support. You can join a group. There's lots of Facebook groups out there that support people in debt. You can get an accountability partner. You can there are apps that help you track debt. Like there's lots of things you can do to get a little bit of support. Make goals. That's going to help you stay focused, and then improve your mindset. Your mindset is huge, right? Getting off the debt treadmill is about changing your mindset from I have to have right now to do I need that, or when do I need that? Can it wait? How much can I avoid spending on, making a game out of not spending, enjoying saving more than you enjoy spending. All of these mindset shifts that we can take, and some of them are more helpful for you than others, and others are more helpful for somebody else, will help you get off of that debt treadmill. And if you absolutely have to, cutting up credit cards, you know, it's cliche almost at this point, but cutting your credit card so you cannot use it, making sure that your Google or whatever credit card memory system also forgets it. Doing all those things so you can't just click pay now on Amazon, whatever it is you need to do to make it so you stop spending on credit. That can also work. That's more extreme. I actually think that credit cards have some very powerful and important uses in our lives. So I don't recommend going full bore against credit cards unless you feel like you cannot do it without that. I have a brother who doesn't like credit cards. He doesn't want to use credit cards because he knows that they're not going to be good for him. And that's fine. He might change his mind later. Who knows? But for right now, he doesn't use them, and that is his choice. And if that's what you need, that's what you need, because your journey is different than others. And once you've been able to identify that, right? Remember, we find those things that were getting us into debt, and we stop spending on those, and we make a plan to stop spending on those. Once you've stopped spending those things, so you stop getting into more debt, then you need to, before you actually start paying off debt, you need to protect yourself. Now, you might be like, what are you talking about? Part of paying off debt is avoiding more debt situations. And a lot of the times, the things that get us into debt, at least initially, are emergencies. So I just want to remind you guys of our discussion of financial tidal waves. The first step in a financial tidal wave and avoiding those, or making it so you can weather that storm, was having a 1 month emergency fund. If you do not have that 1 month emergency fund, I wouldn't start aggressively paying down debt. Stop getting into debt. That's first, regardless. Just don't get into more debt. And then maintain your minimum payments while you build that 1 month emergency fund. That's going to give you a lot of peace of mind. And as something huge comes up, you won't have to reach automatically for your credit card, swipe it, and start the cycle over. Then again, you'll have the money on hand to handle that issue. And then you take a pause on your debt payoff, rebuild that emergency fund, and voila, you go from there. It's just a really great way to build your muscle away from using debt as the way that you get yourself out of trouble. So I highly recommend that you do that. it'll also regulate your spending as you're trying to build that emergency fund. So it just gives you that muscle building. You have a short-term goal to get to, like, okay, in 2-3 months, I can build up this short-term emergency fund. And that's like a first step, little win as well. So it's just all around a good idea to start by building that 1-month emergency fund before you actually even start your aggressive debt pay down. Once you've done that, you can start paying off debt. And it's really important to get your mindset right before you dive into the calculations behind it. So getting your mindset right means stop feeling helpless about debt. It's easy to feel helpless when you're in debt. And taking responsibility, saying, I got into debt, you no longer feel helpless because you said, I did that, right? That sounds kind of weird, but you're like, I did that. And because I did it, I can undo it, right? It's not like, oh, the debt gods have put debt upon me and therefore I will be in debt for the rest of my life. No. This was your choices, your actions that got you into debt, and your choices and your actions will get you out of debt. You have control. So recognizing that is really the first thing that you need to do on your aggressive debt payoff journey. And then just keep in mind that the mindset should be that it's in your control. There's only very rare situations where something like bankruptcy or a debt attorney plays an important role in your debt payoff journey. I mean, we just had on Haley and Justin, who were hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt on teacher salaries, and they weren't considering bankruptcy. So if they were in that situation and they weren't considering bankruptcy, I believe that you can avoid bankruptcy as well. And bankruptcy is just going to be really hard on your credit. It's going to be just a really demoralizing thing. And it's going to take that will power away from you because you're not getting out of debt. The courts are getting you out of debt. And bankruptcy doesn't really eliminate all of your debts anyway. So it's not as helpful as you might think. If you can control your habits, you can make it through. My other problem with like a bankruptcy or a debt attorney is sure they might help you get out of debt, but they're not helping you get out of the mindset that got you into debt. So you could just turn right back around and get right into debt again if you take the quote unquote easy way out. Remember to start with little wins because that's going to build your mindset. So that first little win, like getting your emergency fund, that's huge. Also, just start with $100, right? Get $100 going towards your debt every single month. That is a little win. And I believe that everybody, every teacher can find $100 in their budget to start putting toward debt. If you can't, you probably need to move. I'm going to be honest with you. If you can't find $100, you are in too expensive a house, or you need to sell your car, or you need to start couponing. I mean, you can save $100 with coupons every single month. So the point is that you can find $100 in your budget, start putting toward debt. It might feel like a sacrifice, but once you've got that just like regularly done, you'll be able to ramp it up slowly, more and more and more, and eventually you'll have a whole bunch going towards debt in a way that you never even thought was possible. Now we need to determine how you're going to pay off debt. And there's 3 general debt payoff methods that people talk about. The most popular, the most famous, the one that everyone kind of knows if you even like are remotely interested in getting out of debt is the debt snowball. Now the image here is of like a little, ball of snow that starts at the top of a mountain and rolls down and becomes a gigantic boulder by the end. And the idea is you find your lowest balance debt, right? Let's say you have, your mortgages in the hundreds of thousands, and then you have, a student loan in the tens of thousands, and then you got credit cards in the 15, 20 range, and then you got one credit card for 1,000, right? That's the one you're targeting. Hit the lowest one first. And if you hit the lowest one first, you just are paying the minimum payments and everything else, and then putting every extra dollar you have into that lowest one. When you have paid that one off, whatever you were paying extra towards that one, plus the minimum balance on that one that you were already paying towards it, so it's not like you're going to miss that money. You put it towards the next lowest balance, and you pay until that disappears, and then your minimum balance for that one that you were paying, You tack onto that, Snowball gets bigger, and you start hitting the next one. And then when you hit the minimum balance for that one, gets tagged onto the next one, and so on and so forth until it just rolls into a boulder that demolishes your debt very, very quickly. It's a great method. It gets you little wins out of the gate. It really helps. It's a tried and true method. People love it. So I mean, if you want a recommendation, I just say go with that one because it's the most likely to work just because it's simple. The next one is the mathematically better approach. So people who are all about math say, well, you actually should do it this way, right? As they push up their glasses on their nose. The debt avalanche is where you arrange your debts. So using that debt inventory at teachermoneyshow.com/debt inventory, right? You should have your balances and your interest rates on there. You arrange your debts by interest rate, and the one that's got the highest interest rate is the one you attack first. It doesn't matter if it's got $100,000 on it or $2,000 on it. If the high interest rate is the highest, that is the one you want to go for first, and that's usually going to be a credit card of some kind because credit card interest rates are predatory in nature. So whatever that highest interest rate is, if you pay that one off first, and then do the same method where you roll that amount minimum that you're paying there, plus your extra into the next highest interest rate, and so on and so forth, it's going to pay off slightly faster. Your debts are going to be paid off slightly faster, and you're going to pay slightly less interest over the course of all of your loans. Now, the amount of interest you're going to save and the amount of time you're going to save is going to vary. It's not usually going to be like huge amounts unless you have, $50,000 on a high interest credit card and you're paying off a whole bunch of other small things first. But still, it's mathematically better. Mentally might not be better, but if you believe in the math and you can stay motivated, then this is the best option just because of the math saving you interest and time. The third method is actually kind of a combination. Like you can use it with the other two. It's called the debt lasso, and it's the only one that's not snow related. You are taking balances from, like, say, a credit card and transferring it to a different location. You're consolidating them even to have a lower interest rate. So you can do a debt consolidation loan. That's part of a lasso. So if you're going from, a bunch of 20-ish percent interest rates and then consolidating to like 5% interest rate, that's lassoing. Or if you do a balance transfer to a 0% introductory credit card, that is another way of doing this. So this is actually a huge method. Even if they're going to charge you, 5% of the total balance that you transfer over, but it's 0% for a year and you pay that off in a year, 5% of the total balance is considerably less than the 20% that you were paying to your credit card company. So the debt lasso is great if you still have the credit worthiness to get those other lines of credit, and you have the motivation and the mindset that will allow you to pay off the debt and not be like, oh, I've got more credit, charge it. Like that. That's the danger here, is that the more credit you have, the more temptation you have to use it. So if you're the one that needs to cut up your credit cards, getting more credit cards to solve your previous credit card problem can be dangerous. So don't use the debt lasso method unless you are absolutely certain that it's going to help you in the long run and not just add more gas to the fire. Remember, to determine this, you just go back to your debt inventory, circle the debt with the highest balance, and circle the debt, check the debt with the highest interest rate, right? And then, put a box around the debt with the lowest balance and a X next to the debt with the lowest interest rate. This will just help you visualize where to go. Sometimes you might just have your lowest interest, highest interest rate and your lowest balance are the same thing. Then it's easy to decide where you start. And then you just have to figure out where you're going to go next after that. Some people want to start with a little win and then they go to the higher interest rate. You can mix it up. You don't have to follow one of these methods strictly because some guru said you had to do it. Whatever is going to work for you. Just the point is stacking. So instead of paying like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, no. Hit one debt until it's gone. That's going to be effective much more than paying the minimum plus a little bit extra everywhere. That's the main takeaway from that. Just remember to be creative on how you go about this. You can, put your debts into ranges, right? Because if you have, high balances, you might not want to worry about those because you need the win, or you want to worry about those because they've got high interest rates, and you could pay off the lowest balance in the high interest range. That's something else you can do. You can turn it into a game and just be like, okay, I'm going to throw a dart at the board and I'm going to just pay off whatever it hits. If you like gambling, but you don't want to gamble because it's bad for your finances. I don't know. I'm just saying, do whatever is going to make you be motivated and just focus on the one. Whatever that one thing is that you're going to focus on paying off, that's the thing that really actually matters, not the order you go in. Over the course of your life, the order you went in to pay off your debt is going to matter much less than how much, than the fact that you paid off debt. One more thing to consider, urgency. Some debts are more urgent than others, and this depends on time frame and interest rate. Some debts have a very limited time, like you need to pay this off in a year. So you can't be like, oh, it's got the highest balance, I'm just going to wait. Or, oh, it's got a low interest rate, I'm going to wait. It's due in a year, you need to pay it off. So that is something that's urgent, and you can't change that. So the most urgent debt with the shortest time frame needs to come first. And if it's got a high interest rate, even more so. So usually credit cards are more urgent than student loans or mortgage because they just got a higher rate. So I like, even if your criteria for whatever method you choose says go for the mortgage next, you might want to consider paying off the credit cards first, just because they're such a high interest rate. Credit cards or loan sharks, anyone that's charging you above 10%. It used to be above like 7%, but as interest rates have creeped up, the loan sharks are 10, 12%, 15, while the regular people are where the loan sharks were just a few years ago. It's all relative, but the point is that you want to make sure that you have the amount that is highest interest rate needs to have a little bit more priority in your mind if it is really, really high. Just because it's going to destroy you with interest. Debts that are slightly urgent are going to be minimum mid-range, okay? And then less urgent are, the long term and low interest rate. Like mortgages are generally like, please don't pay off your mortgage before you pay off credit cards and student loans and car loans. The mortgage is a low, dependable payment. It's fixed, most likely. Everything else is going to be a bit more urgent than that. Not saying you shouldn't pay off your mortgage, but if you're going to, make sure everything else is gone first, because it's not going to pay off in the long run to pay down your mortgage compared to getting out of these other debts. Because then you can use the money you save from these other debts to really just crush that mortgage. And we talk about we can talk about methods to crush your mortgage another day. But regardless of how you go about it, just remember paying off debt is never a bad decision. So if like the mortgage for some reason just really rankles you and you'd rather stay in credit card debt, I mean, like, I guess go pay off the mortgage. Like, what if you're getting out of debt? I'm not going to tell you no, but just remember that there's some differences in how urgent it is. Okay, let's review. Debt freedom is a common goal for everybody. To get out of debt and to stay out of debt, you must stop getting into debt. You must focus on getting out of debt after starting an emergency fund. You must change your debt mindset so that way you aren't just going to go right back into those same patterns to get you into debt again. And you need to choose a payoff method that works for you. Whatever you choose is going to be fine. And just keep in mind the urgency as you are making those decisions on what order to put your debt payoff in. Well, I hope that helped. I hope that you can just crush the debt that you have so that way you can start putting more money towards your long-term goals like retirement or college for a kid or going on that amazing trip that you've always wanted to, because quality of life really does matter. Anything that you need to use your money for long term is going to be so much easier when you're out of debt. So good luck. Remember, you can get the debt inventory resource at teachermoneyshow.com/debt inventory. As always, if you want to talk to me, please send me an email, Shaun@teachermoneyshow.com, SHAUN, or you can go to speakpipe.com/teachermoneyshow to send me a voice message. And I'd just love to hear from you. Answer any questions you have. I'll answer them directly on the podcast. Or if you don't want that, I can answer them directly to you in an email. I'm just here to be a resource to help as many teachers as I can have a richer wallet, classroom, and life. Remember, you are already rich. Your wallet just needs to catch up.
If you'd like to come on the podcast for coaching, to share an expert opinion, or just to talk about a topic you think is relevant, I'd love to talk to you. Just fill out the form at teachermoneyshow.com/guest. I look forward to talking with you.